whether that's in the physical realm or the spiritual realm. We're all on the same page? What's the page number? Numero uno. What are you hearing me say?
The part that rang to me is, try to know your position. Go to another brother, honestly. It's kind of what you said last week. Go to another brother in the house. Tell him where you're at, and then he'll bounce the ball back with you. You go back and you tell another brother, and you just keep getting more and more back and feedback, and then you gotta get back to yourself and identify everything that everybody else has been telling you and try to apply that to your life, and then basically, in a sense, redo the process all over again. It doesn't just stop. You have to keep on working. If you stop and don't apply what everybody else has been trying to show you, basically it was all for nothing. So you have to just keep on that steady path and keep moving forward. Nothing you can't do is just take what one person said and not take what the other person said and put one thing over here or one thing over here. You have to apply both things and move forward. And then once you see that position, then you do the same thing. Like I just said, you ask a brother where you're at again, and then go to the next person, go to the next person, go to the next person, and apply it to your life again, and then just a repeating process. It's not something for me. Can't stop. Honestly, we had this. I'm gonna say because Jake had seen something off, and then talked to Jake about it, but I really couldn't. Maybe this might be a little off topic, but I brought what I just said, into the conversation. I couldn't figure out what was going on with David, so I just talked and, in a sense, met him where he was at. We both just bounced the ball back and forth and expressed where I thought where he was at, and just basically bounce the ball back, and then you apply that. You go on to the next person and see where they think you're at, or then you just go to the next person. It doesn't just stop, it just keeps going. That's what I heard.
So at what points along that route where did you have your revelation? What was off?
The revelations for me, it was between me and him. Honestly, there's been a lack of talking or communication, at least between me and him. There's been points
between you and Jake, or between you and David?
Me.
Jacob's the one that said that something was off.
Something off, and I tried to express, and I couldn't really. So I just sat down with David and just started talking to him about just to see where he was at, and that was my revelation for my part, that there's been a lack of, because I've noticed I had to go back and we said hi, asked each other how our days are going, but it really never got deep. It was just like you said earlier, like, I don't really feel like dealing with that right now, and just go the other direction. So that was my revelation of that.
Was that you weren't taking the time to get intimate or authentic?
Yeah.
because you were busy. You had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Both of you, positionally, are kind of in the same place. High note. Neither one of you are really digging deep to identify at that high note. So it's a great example of, and I'm not saying currently, I'm saying up to this place, it's a great example of what happens on top of a hill. Meeville. There's a town up there called Meeville. Party of one.
Yeah, you're right.
But luckily you're in a position to where other people are willing to say, you got the stack. Stack.
Yeah.
That's good. There is nothing more important than your current position. I'm going to write that down.
I really like how you were saying that you have to, like, the whole meeting last week, asking each other and all that, but also that you have to, always check your position, because if you do it only at certain times, when it's all hilltop and stuff like that, then you get a false idea where you're really at, and that's like dangerous, obviously. And then you get caught off guard when something happens, crash them. I like that, like constantly keeping it in check, even when you're down, or whatever's going on, constantly figure it out.
Your nugget was you cannot check your own position based on your own understanding. So I'll just talk. I've noticed something off with David. So I had to ask myself, is it because I'm with him all day long? Am I the only one seeing anything off? So the plan was, I talked to Will, just all I said was, do you notice anything? That was the extent of it. The plan was to go to, and this is asking if this is, because I've tried to talk and I feel like I'm just making him mad, maybe, I don't know. So my plan tonight was talk to Alex and chain of command. What I wrote down, I literally wrote me, then Alex / Will, then to Dave. Because I don't know if it's me being with him in the truck all day, maybe he's just annoying me and I don't know why or what it is, or other people's understanding is something off. Am I off? Is he off? What's going on? So that was the plan, was to talk to you and be like, hey bro, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Probably is. Well, definitely there's my part is involved in there for sure. But to go, am I the only one seeing this and I'm the only one? Because the overall concern is, or should always be, to get them to the next thing. And what I wanted to share was, I remember my 1 year and I thought I was like, yay, a magic trick's gonna happen now. I have a coin and like everything's cool. It's not. It's like there's more. There's just more to do. There's more you're responsible for. It just gets larger. It's still awesome and it gets better and better, but there was more there.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Kind of like knowledge.
Yeah.
This is a double-edged sword. Blessing is a double-edged sword. When you get there, you're like, wow, yeah, I got there. Never thought I'd get there. But
And then you're like, well,
coming right behind you is a whole bunch more pruning so that you can get to the next place you never thought you would get. And if you don't talk about it, the first process is to look at your current position and figure it out, then you'll miss it.
I remember on my 1 year, now maybe this was old Jason, but you said to me, man, the first year was the best. It only got harder from there.
Oh, no,
And I was like, dude, like this just happened and there's already more work ahead.
I say it all the time.
But it's authentic, it's true.
I mean,
It's more.
last year was the hardest year ever. This year is a hard year. But it's not sobriety that's hard. It's a different focus. I tell people, I do the same exact thing I did almost 11 years ago that I do today. They think that's crazy. Well, why? You don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to worry about drinking or using or whatever. Yeah, you're right, but that's not my problem today. I don't have a problem staying sober. But I got plenty of problems. So I have to keep working on the problem that God has placed in front of me based on my current position. They could be good problems. I mean, they could be bad problems. At the end of the day, they're just issues. And you start with dealing with your issue that brought you here, drugs and alcohol. That's the thing on the surface that forced your butt into the seat or into the grave, but you were lucky enough to end up here at the Adonai house. And you got to go more. And if you're not going more, and you think you got it all, and you think you know it, and you think it's just going to be hunky-dory, you're going to get T-boned by a Mack truck, and it's going to jack you up. And then the worst time is when you get T-boned at one of these high places. And you're like, man, I think I'm doing it all. I thought I was doing it all right, and this, that, and the other, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm not, apparently. And wow, this is not fair. Now it's ruining what I think is supposed to be good for me, a good time. Then you're really jacked up.
That's the throw in the towel mentality.
Oh yeah. It's it's a war. And your enemies are yourself, the world, and the evil one. Yourself is everything before. What got you up to that place where you came into this understanding? That's yourself. From the time you came out of your mother's womb up until you walked into this understanding. That's yourself. Everything they did, everything everyone else did around you, and everything you did. That's a big hurdle to overcome, to get under wraps. And we can lie to ourselves by saying we've done so much by staying sober a year, which is a great thing. 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years, 11 years, that's all great. But if that's the only focus, then you haven't accomplished anything. Because the idea is to get through all this other stuff. It's just like Robin and I sat here at the end of the table and told you about first year of marriage. And, it's not that way for everybody. It was that way for us. There was a lot of opportunities or a lot of reasons to throw in the towel. It's not what it was about. Everything up to that point had positioned me to get through that time. to remember that, is that what you are overcoming is positioning you to overcome. Yourself, the world, and the evil one. So, breaking of generational sin. My parents were divorced twice, remarried twice, and separated 6 times to each other. There's a generational sin for you. Divorce. You broke that. All the sobriety and the Joe W and all that stuff positioned me to fight a battle that has never been fought in my family. I imagine that would be pretty tough, wouldn't you? To break something so strong. You know, alcoholism, drug addiction, all that stuff was a battle. I don't know. Maybe some tried to fight, but no one fought long enough to win. And so once I overcame that war, that battle, the battle of alcoholism and drug addiction, congratulations. You got 1 year. Now you go into battle for something else. See, because there's generations behind us that have positioned us with some jacked up ways of living. And then, if you allow the world to continue to pollute you through these, then you're all out of whack. Let me tell you something. You cannot know your position in the midst of sin. It's another one for you. What's the most important position in your life? This position, your current position. Nothing else matters. You cannot know your position in the midst of sin. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care if you talk to the Dalai Lama himself. You're not going to know. Because sin is confusion. So if you're struggling with a certain area in your life, do a quick inventory check and see where you're sinning. That will usually help get you right back on track real quick. Because as soon as you take that out, you'll have the revelation and the blessing will be right after. Obedience brings blessing. So we have to master the things in which we have control over. That's why it's so important to understand these basics. Because things that we may have worked on a long time ago and had some sort of victory over, if you want to call it that, to be a churchy type of word. Victory and backsliding. If you're not constantly vigilant, something will get a hold of you, or you'll get a hold of something, and it will get you off track. What's the Bible say the devil is? The great deceiver. So she may be dressed up and look perfect. And it may be wrapped up with the prettiest bow you ever seen on it. And there's no way it could be bad. Chances are. That's it. It's the justifications in your life. Justification is a sin. Did you know that?
Straight up denying.
You're denying Christ.
Yeah, denying the truth.
I mean, every time you justify yourself, you're denying your Creator. When you identify these undeniable things in your life, it's much easier to continue going down based on that and not allowing the interference to get in the way of where God is trying to bring you. Justification is a T-bone to your current path. It's like you're just going along. Oh yeah, well, I just kind of like to listen to it a little bit. Wham! And you're over here in the ditch. Because you've been justifying it for so long. You've been disconnected from your Creator. And you had no clue. Roll your eyes. When I set out on this path, Joe said, listen, it's this simple. Here's you. Here's God. Sin is like storms. Cloudy days is justification. First comes the cloudy days, then comes the storms. Sin, justification, starts off as white lies, little sins, whatever you want to call them. And before you know it, you got the full-blown storm on. And when that's going on, you are disconnected from your power, from your Creator. So for me, when I first started, there were some things that I could handle that were obvious, that were undeniable. I can control what I put in here. I can control what I put in here. And I can position myself in environments around people that are generally going in the direction that I need to be. And I took that very seriously. Until I stayed single and celibate for 2.5 years. Was it easy? No, it was hard. No pun intended. But using the tools, identifying my position at all times, helped me overcome, or at least put me in a position to where it was Christ in me getting through some things that the average man says there's no way you can do that. My favorite is that it's bad for you. Scientifically speaking, of course. It's crap. And so the more freedom we get, the higher along the road we get, the more of the medallions we get, the better job we get, chances are all of those distractions are tenfold of what they were when we started. So what you think you had under control is now an agent in disguise. If you have to justify your actions, then you're telling yourself you automatically shouldn't be doing it. It's kind of like the same thing I always talk about. If you're doing something here, and you can't hear me pull up because I'm not driving the truck, and I get to just sneak right in, if you're not comfortable with what you're doing, or you immediately start doing something else, that's your subconscious telling you that you're not in the right position. I would like to think that if Jesus Christ himself walked in on me at any point during my day, that I'm good. I'd be like, "What's up, dude? About time." I wouldn't go. Try and hide. Because I'm always operating at a pace that is hopefully placing me in a position that is on this journey. It's not about busyness. Because knowledge doesn't get you any closer to God. Oh, well, hello, Jesus. I just happened to be sitting here reading your word. You know that one time, he'd be like, "Get away from me, I never knew you." Think about that. So it's not about knowledge, it's not about busyness, what you're doing physically. It's whether things are in order in the time that he's given you, which is in order, 24 hours I believe it says. If you are your life in this time in order to the way in which he's called you to live it, you're probably in a good position. And if you start any rebuttal, or if someone talks to you and you immediately hit them with the justification, I'm telling you right now, you're telling on yourself you're out of position. This is a true mirror. You should never have to do that if you're in position.
It's almost like in the book of Genesis when he asked, "Why are you hiding?" "I hid because I was naked."
It's exactly the same thing. They were out of order. So we can get into habits of doing that type of thing and not understand the totality of the effect that it is having on our current position, our future position, as well as the people's position that have been placed around us because of our ignorance and disobedience. And it's not about right and wrong. It's about order. I mean, honestly, if it was about work, I could quit today for the rest of my life because I think I've worked enough, served enough people, helped enough. I mean, I'm done. I'm going to go retire over here. It's not what it's about. Because that's not the destination. The destination is not self-gratification. Chew on that one. You can take that one all over the place. Success does not equal self-gratification. And so if you're constantly trying to pursue something that it is not true, then guess what? You're never going to reach this place. You'll always be defeated, and eventually you'll throw in the towel. Okay? You ready for this mind-blowing experience? The national average for AA, NA, or any A is 1 to 3% success rate at treatment centers all over the world. You know why? Because their destination is not drinking and using. And we know that is not, that it's undeniable. It is undeniable that sobriety doesn't mean happiness. So people do the sobriety thing for however long they do it, and then they realize it doesn't bring them happiness, and they throw in the towel. That's why they have such a poor success rate. Because they're basing their actions on untruths. Well, why? Joe W. used to do this to me. He did it to me for at least a year or two. I went through a little phase of it myself with you guys. You remember? Why? Every answer was why. So why do people continue to do this? I mean, it's been around for a long time. People have been trying to get sober for a minute now. People have been trying to find happiness. Why do they continue to do that? Anyone? Ferris?
They don't know their source.
But why?
Why is the destination just being sober?
No, why do people continue to seek destinations that are untruths based on what we know to be undeniable, therefore constantly failing and throwing in the towel? Why is, in the most countries, relapse part of recovery?
Because people believe it'll get easier when the only easy day was yesterday. They don't keep trying for it. They think, oh, I'm gonna get sober and then everything's gonna be perfect. But that's not the case. It's a continuing battle that everyone has to keep fighting each day, and it only gets harder.
So why do people keep going after the same thing? I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I was born on a day. You know, I'm no big deal. How come I can see it and others can't?
You understand your position.
The foundation of it is out of position, so therefore everything moving forward would be void.
Okay, so if I'm out of position, and I realize I'm out of position, let's say I've been in recovery for 8 years, and just about every 8 months to 12 months I relapse and have to start over again. And I go back and start over again. And do the same thing. Why don't I see what I need to do?
You haven't found your purpose in life?
Dude, I still don't know my purpose. I mean, you might be able to tell me my purpose, but I don't necessarily know it.
Is it truly surrender? That's why?
Say it again?
Truly surrender?
I mean, I don't really know what that means anymore. I used to think I knew what it meant. I used to try and beat it into people too. I have beat it into some people. It was beaten into me. But I don't believe that's the answer. Because what I see today applies to everything, not just addiction. And is so obvious to me, but not so obvious to so many people.
I feel like people struggle with relationships and being able to talk and hold each other accountable and look at themselves rather than looking at everybody else.
Okay,
You know, it's-
we're kind of on the, I mean, that is a symptom of the reason. That is definitely a symptom.
Filling a void. It's a-
Filling a void?
Yeah, like there's a hole in someone, and they have to fill it, so they go back and relapse. So,
Yeah, but we're not just talking about addiction. We're talking about life.
I was gonna say playing God, but that's like.
The difference between success and failure.
Is that the will you thing you're talking about?
The who?
Forget how it goes. What did you say?
The who?
Successful people and not like can you and then will you?
Yeah. Certainly, that's in that right direction for sure.
Gratitude, remember the source, where you came from.
Romance in the past, all that stuff, yeah. Successful people do what?
Things that unsuccessful people won't do.
Take action.
Cannot or will not. What's the difference between can and will?
Can, obviously you're capable, you have the means to, but will you is getting outside yourself to do that.
What's the
Action.
difference?
Action.
Action.
or
Obedience.
God.
So once I know my current position, it could be mountaintop, it could be valley. If I truly, authentically know my position, then I also truly, authentically know what I have to do next. One comes with the other. Does practice make perfect?
Perfect practice.
Okay. So there's plenty of people that relapse, fail, fall down, backslide, whatever you want to call it, in any area in their life, and they muster up enough ability to try again, but they try it the exact same way they did before. Because they never took a true GPS understanding, positioning of where they were at. Because if they did, they'd pretty quickly see that the way that they've been trying to do it is not the way you should try and do it. because it only leads to one place. And if that's not where you're trying to go or where God's trying to take you, then you're going to fail. So maybe you stay sober this time 2 years instead of 8 months. Maybe next time it's 3 years instead of 8 months. Maybe it's 10 or 20 years. But eventually you realize that where you're trying to go is not sobriety. And so you throw in the towel. Because relapse is a conscious decision. And that's with any sin. 3 frogs sitting on a log. You make a decision. So that, it's a decision to relapse. Just like it's a decision to do the right thing. But nothing happens until you take action. And if you take the same type of action that you've always taken, you're always going to get the same results. And 9 times out of 10, actually 100 times out of 100 times, if you fail, it's because you varied from the path that was walked before you. You were unwilling. You said, yeah, I can, but I'm not willing to guard these, to do the authentic community, whatever it is. You said, no, I'm not willing. And you may have said yes here, but you said no here. That's why words are worthless. Because it's the heart that is obedient, not the mind. Decisions are made here. Obedience happens here. Simple. And the more we understand about how simple this is, the farther we will get, and the more blessed we will be, and the more life we will live in the groove instead of fighting it. And yeah, it's tough. It's work. It's the difference between can and will. It's a lot of work. A lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears of doing things that is not about self-gratification. In any other way you look at it, if you're doing something so that this will happen, that is called self-gratification. And if that's why you go to work, if that's why you stay sober, if that's why you love, if that's why you give, if that's why you do anything in your life, it will result in void, in death. Because you are not God. And you can paint it however you want to. We can use big words and we can use backwoods words. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. You can stand up on Saturday with a brother's suit on and speak in the Torah, or you can sit here on Tuesday night and speak it the same in a different way, wearing a different outfit, but it's the exact same thing. So, once you understand your position, and when you truly, authentically know your position, then you also know the action that needs to be taken. Okay? What's the most important thing at that moment?
Obedience.
Obedience. Instant obedience.
Right.
And what's obedience?
Right away, all the way through that. Yeah.
That's it. The sooner you learn to live your life that way, the happier you're going to be. And the more fruit you'll see. It should be like, wow, okay, action. Blessing. Because what? Obedience brings a blessing. So then it starts over again. Every day, all day, same thing. So when a brother is walking past you and you see something off, was it you that saw something off? Or was it the he in you, the I am, that saw something off? Hello? Is this thing on? Did you not understand the question? That's an option.
Right.
Always. Is it you that said, something's off here? Or is it the he in you, the I am in you? So you can only have the I am in you when you are in the right position. I've been thinking about this deep. The I am seems so simple, but it goes pretty deep. So you're walking along, man, David looks weird. If you're having that revelation, it didn't come from you. And in that revelation, you have a direction. What is it?
Take action.
Huh?
Take action.
What is the action?
Talk to him.
Correct. That's simple. Rocket science, this stuff, I'm telling you. And so, what's it say in God's Word? First, go to your brother. Reconcile with him. What does that mean, reconcile? Figure things out. See if it's me that's off. Is it you that's off? Are we both off? What's going on here? As soon and as quick as possible. If it isn't able to be resolved, then use your chain of command. Because there is no chain of command that's higher than the I am in you. Correct? That's why you get to circumvent that. What that avoids is things that can look like Lashon Lara, or whatever you guys call it, talking behind people's backs or talking bad about people, which creates what? Fear, resentment, anger, which are all Satan's to destroy. So the obedient way is to immediately take action. Not go over here, because over here we're giving the enemy tools. And it doesn't matter what we were doing, if it was pure or not, if it was righteous or not, if it was holy or not. God said, get away from me, I never knew you. But Lord, we did this, we did get away from me. I told you what to do. Be obedient immediately. And it would stop all this. Yeah, but justification. Yeah, but justification. Yeah, but justification. Doesn't matter. That's what God's Word says. As soon as we hear the direction, we are to be obedient. The longer we take, delayed obedience equals
Disobedience.
which equals pain in all areas of your life. even if it has nothing to do with you. That's the crappy part about authentic community, or living authentically. Old lady needs help crossing the road, but I make a conscious decision to ignore her based on my own time and needs. Even though God showed me that old lady needs help crossing the road, has nothing to do with me. I got things to do, places to be, people to see. And I disobey that direct command. Guess what, bro? Game on. It's pain. Pain's coming. Oh, what's wrong? Why do I feel this way? I can't get it right. I thought I'm doing all the right things. Yeah. No, you're not. You're doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. Plain and simple. I. And if you're not on point, you may not be able to backtrace where you got off point. Because who knew? You probably forgot about old lady trying to cross the road. But I'm telling you, it's that simple. It is that simple. So, if you understand your position, that means that God is in you, in that current position. And so if He's giving you a command, or showing you something, or giving you a revelation, or whatever, always, how many times? Always is what you're supposed to do, the obedience. Because, God never. That's why I have a lot less friends in this town. Because I'm that guy. And I don't do it like I used to, but I used to have to do it in here. Come in here and I'd be able to sniff it out in 2 seconds. You got to stay. And then I will position you to deal with it immediately. Because I didn't have time to do it on your schedule. And that usually meant grinding you in ways in which were not very comfortable. And I don't mean like this kind of grind. I mean like that kind of grind. And that's kind of the way life is too, is it not? When we get out of position, everything starts to grind us. And life chooses with the when, where, hows versus us choosing. Because before we had the opportunity. Because we were in the zone. We understood our position. God was with us, in us, through us. So we had the opportunity. Every day we have that opportunity. But when you get out of it and you let sin or whatever disconnect you from the power, now you're on the world's time. And the world will deal with you how they want to deal with you. So why is God doing this to me? God ain't doing this to you. You disconnected yourself from God. It's your fault. Get back in the zone. How do we get back in the zone?
Obedience. Check your position.
Okay. So we checked our position. We saw what was obedient. We were obedient to it. And then what does God tell us? To forgive ourselves. Forgetting out of position. And others. Forgive others. For ourselves and others. So if we don't do those 3 things, it don't matter. I don't care how many times you tap, how many times you go to Shabbat, do all the dance and things the right way, whatever, it don't matter. got to forgive yourself and the people around you. And that may be a real core issue for you when you're stressed and anxiety. I ain't trying to point you out. God just gave it to me, so I gave it to you. It's forgiveness of self. That's why it's so important to get focused. It's not this broad thing that you can tap on, smell on, and pray on and think your life is going to change. Because it ain't. Because you never got focused enough to understand it and then the direction to get away from it. And you use the tools, tapping, smelling, praying, to get focused on it, to find out what it is. Once you understand it, that's your position, then you can be free from it by forgiving yourself and the people that were involved. If there were people involved. And then God says, I'll forgive you. And then you're free indeed. And then your number goes from 10 to 0. And it can be real. Not just a feeling, but like real. Like, wow, how the crap did that happen? You worked the process, the order of everything for that day, for that moment, for that situation, for that issue. And the more you do that, the more momentum you build. And the less things have control over your life. You're never going to be perfect, but you can practice the hell out of perfection. And it's given to us. I didn't get this way overnight. I didn't get my 1-year coin, my 2-year coin, my 5-year coin and say, I understand this. I still don't understand it. But everything that I do understand, I understand it all. Because of my testimony. And what's your testimony? Obedience to teaching and instruction. And what's the proof of that? Fruit. In your own life as well as people around you. How you plant something, you gotta water it, you gotta feed it, you gotta prune it. Which is the ebbs and flows of life. It takes time. It's not an aha. By golly, I figured it out. If I do this, I got it. If it works out for you, let me know. Because it hasn't been like that one time for me in this journey. And that's what helps me stay focused on my most important position. Any questions? Thank you for this time that we have with each other. Thank you for your teaching and instruction. We thank you for making us beings that have the ability to carry these things out, Lord. You said that your yoke is light, not heavy. It's not practice makes perfect. It's not some journey of failures. and justifications. And we just thank you for giving us the courage to be different than the mainstream. And we thank you for the blessings of Will's probation and 1 year for Knuckle Sandwich, and even Eric slowly but surely getting back in line, and Cody grabbing a hold of his stuff, and Mark moving forward in his walk, and Jacob constantly challenging himself, and Alex just still looking cool bald. Lord, we praise you and we thank you for all these things because they are your provision. They originate in you, and they are you, and from you, Lord, and we praise you for those things. And we thank you, and we praise you for your Son. Lord Yeshua, we just praise the opportunity to practice His perfection. And Lord, we just pray that you open our eyes, remove the scales from them, allow us to see things in ways in which we've never seen them before. Lord, that we may act on them to further your kingdom. Lord, we just pray all these things in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
That is the funniest thing I've ever heard in the middle of a prayer.
Dude, I meant